Go back to Africa, Officer Travis Malloy shouted. People like you don't belong here. Maya Williams froze, a paper cup of coffee in one hand and a stack of critical court documents in the other. Officer, she said at last, her voice low and careful. Please, I'm only asking you to verify my identification. Malloy stepped closer. Don't play polite with me. I know your type. Maya lowered her eyes slightly. My name is Maya Williams, she said. I have business with the court this morning. If you call Chief Judge Whitaker's chambers, they will confirm. Shut up. You don't get to talk here. The word cracked through the lobby. A few people turned. Some watched with discomfort. A man near the metal detector shook his head and muttered, "Always something with them." Maya heard it, but she did not look at him. Malloy snatched her federal ID from her hand, glanced at it for less than a second, and tossed it onto the security table. Fake. It isn't fake, Maya said softly. You expect me to believe you're supposed to be here? I expect you to follow procedure. Malloy laughed. Procedure? You people learn one official word and think it opens every door. Maya's fingers tightened around her coffee cup. Please call the judge's chambers. Malloy's eyes moved to the brown leather case. Open it. I can't do that without proper authority. Open the case. It contains sealed court materials. What kind of materials? Maya hesitated. Documents for a hearing. What hearing? Who are you testifying against? She looked up carefully. Why would you ask that? Malloy's jaw flexed. Because I'm asking the questions. You called them evidence before I said anything about evidence. His face hardened. I didn't call them anything. Yes, officer, Maya said, still quiet. You did. Malloy slapped the coffee cup out of her hand. The cup hit the edge of the security table and burst open. Hot coffee splashed over the leather case and spilled across a folder Maya had pulled from it. Pages slid loose and scattered onto the marble floor. Brown liquid spread over names, dates, exhibit numbers, and highlighted lines prepared for that morning's hearing. Maya gasped. No, please. She dropped to her knees and began gathering the wet pages with shaking hands. Her breathing turned fast and uneven. A few pages stuck to the floor. Ink bled at the edges. She tried to stack them carefully, but her fingers trembled too much. Malloy stood over her. Look at you. Can't even hold a file without making a scene. Maya reached for a page near his boot. Please, I need that document. Malloy moved his foot. Maya pulled her hand back quickly. He smiled. What's wrong? Scared now? She kept her hand close to her chest. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Please, don't damage those papers. Malloy bent down and grabbed the wet folder before she could stop him. Maya's eyes widened. No, please, don't search those. He opened the folder. Officer, those are sealed materials. Malloy flipped through the pages roughly. That's a lot of names. Witnesses, or people you're trying to protect. Please stop. What are these? Witness names? Maya's face changed. Panic broke through the careful mask she had been wearing. You cannot read those in public. Malloy held one page higher. Why? Something to hide? Those documents may involve protected witnesses. Protected witnesses, he repeated with a mocking smile. Of course. Everybody's a victim. Everybody's protected. Everybody's got some story about bad cops. Maya reached for the folder, then stopped herself. She knew if she grabbed it, he would call it assault. She pulled her hand back again, shaking. Please, she said. I'm asking you not to expose those names. Malloy looked around at the lobby. You hear that? Now she's worried about names. Maybe she really is carrying something she shouldn't. A woman in line, holding a fast food bag and a plastic soda cup, scoffed. Then get her out of here. We don't need people like her in this building. Another man near the back said, Yeah, we got court to attend. We don't need this. Maya looked down at the papers on the floor. She stayed silent. Malloy smirked at the crowd. See? They know. Someone threw a crumpled napkin. It struck Maya's shoulder and fell beside the coffee-stained pages. Get her out, a man shouted. Another piece of trash hit the floor near her knee. Then, a paper cup, empty but still sticky, bounced against the side of her coat. Throw her out, someone yelled. We don't need troublemakers in here. Maya flinched but did not stand. Her fingers moved quickly, trying to collect the scattered documents before more coffee soaked them. Her face burned with humiliation. She kept her voice small, controlled. Please, she whispered. Please, stop. These are court documents. You're destroying evidence. Malloy laughed. Now she wants respect. A gray-haired veteran near the metal detector stepped forward, anger in his voice. Stop it. All of you. She's on the floor. Malloy pointed at him. Back up. The veteran ignored him. You knocked her coffee down. You're reading her papers. That's not security. Malloy's face darkened. One more word, old man, and you're next. Deputy Marshal Grace Whitfield appeared from the side corridor, her eyes taking in the coffee, the scattered papers, the trash on Maya's coat, and Malloy holding the folder. What is going on here? Grace demanded. Malloy answered quickly. Suspicious woman with fake ID and unverified documents. She spilled coffee during inspection. Maya looked up from the floor. Her voice trembled. He hit the cup out of my hand. Then he opened sealed documents. Malloy snapped. She's lying. Grace looked at Maya's federal ID on the table. Did you scan this? I don't need to scan a fake. Grace picked it up. You don't decide that by looking at her. Malloy stepped closer to Maya and yanked another page from her hand. Maya panicked. Please don't. That page has a witness reference. Malloy looked down at her with disgust. Then maybe you shouldn't have brought it. I have authority to carry it. No, you don't. Please call Chief Judge Whitaker. The name made Grace pause. Malloy noticed it and grew louder. She keeps dropping names. That's what they do. They think if they say the right white man's name, everyone gets scared. Maya closed her eyes for half a second. When she opened them, they were wet, but focused. You refused to verify my ID, she said quietly. You called me a witness before I identified myself. You knocked coffee onto court documents. You opened sealed materials in public. And you allowed people to throw trash at me inside a federal courthouse. The lobby went still. Malloy's smile faded. Grace turned toward him. What description were you given? Malloy stiffened. No description. Maya held a stained page against her chest. Then, how did you know to stop a black woman with a brown case? Malloy grabbed her arm. That's it. You're being detained. Please, Maya said, her voice shaking as he pulled her up. My documents. Forget the documents. They need to be preserved. He twisted her wrist behind her back. You should have thought of that before you came in here pretending to be important. The cuff clicked around her wrist. Grace stepped forward. Malloy, do not cuff her until we verify who she is. She's nobody. Maya looked at the wet papers on the floor, the trash beside them, the phones recording, and the old veteran standing helpless with anger. Then she spoke softly. No, Officer Malloy. I'm exactly the person you should have verified before you touched me. Malloy dragged her toward the holding corridor. Behind them, Grace gathered the ID and stared at the name. And for the first time that morning, Officer Travis Malloy did not look angry. He looked afraid. The holding room door closed behind Maya Williams, but the noise from the lobby still followed her inside. Her wrists were cuffed behind her back. Coffee stained the sleeve of her coat. Her injured hand throbbed from where Officer Travis Malloy had stepped on it. On the other side of the wall, people were still talking. Some shocked, some angry, some repeating the same ugly demand that she be thrown out of the courthouse. Malloy pushed her toward the plastic chair beside the metal table. Sit down. Maya sat carefully. She kept her head slightly lowered. Her voice stayed quiet. Officer, my documents need to be preserved. Malloy laughed. Still worried about your papers? They are sealed court materials. They're whatever I say they are until somebody important says different. Deputy Marshal Grace Whitfield entered behind them, carrying Maya's federal ID and several coffee-stained pages. She had seen enough in the lobby to know this was not a normal security stop. Malloy, Grace said. We're verifying her identification now. Malloy turned on her. I already told you it's fake. You looked at it for 1 second. That was enough. No, Grace said. It wasn't. Maya looked up carefully. Deputy Marshal, please make sure the leather case is not opened or moved. Malloy sneered. You don't get to give orders. I'm not giving orders, Maya said. I'm asking that the chain of custody be protected. Grace looked at her more closely. A frightened trespasser would not say chain of custody. A fake witness would not know to preserve the original position of evidence. Maya was calm, but not careless. Afraid, but precise. Malloy noticed Grace's expression and grew louder. She's manipulating you. That's what people like her do. They act weak, they talk fancy, and then they cry racism when somebody stops them. Maya's hands trembled behind the chair, but her voice stayed low. You called me a witness. Before I said anything about being a witness, Malloy stiffened. I didn't. Yes, you did. Grace turned toward him. Why did you call her a witness? I didn't call her anything. You did in the lobby, Grace said. Several people heard it. Malloy pointed at Maya. She came in with a brown case and refused inspection. Maya said, You were waiting for a black woman with a brown case. The room went quiet. Malloy's face hardened. Watch your mouth. Maya lowered her eyes again, still playing the part of someone too shaken to be dangerous. I'm only asking how you knew. Malloy stepped toward her. You don't ask questions here. Grace moved between them. Back up. She's detained. She's cuffed, seated, and injured. She hurt herself. Grace held up one of the stained pages. And the coffee? She spilled it. No, Maya said softly. You struck the cup from my hand. Malloy snapped. Liar. Grace looked at the camera in the upper corner of the room. Then the lobby footage will settle that. For the first time, Malloy looked toward the camera too quickly. Maya saw it. Grace saw it. Malloy reached for his radio. Control. This is Malloy. I need temporary suspension of holding room 2 camera for equipment check. Grace grabbed his wrist before he could finish. Absolutely not. He yanked away. Don't touch me. Then don't try to shut off a camera during a misconduct complaint. There is no complaint. Maya spoke carefully. There is now. Malloy glared at her. You really don't know when to shut up. I know when something needs to be on record. The word record landed hard. Malloy's anger shifted into something closer to panic. His phone buzzed. He looked down before he could stop himself. Maya could not see the full message, but she saw enough from the lit screen. Did she have it? Malloy locked the phone fast. Grace noticed. Put the phone on the table. It's personal. It may be evidence. Malloy laughed, but the sound was thin. You've lost your mind. Maya kept her voice soft. Please note the time of that message. Malloy moved toward her. Grace stepped fully in front of him. Do not touch her again, Grace said. A younger security officer appeared at the door. His name tag read, Barnes. His face was pale. Grace, he said. There's a problem. Malloy turned. Get back to the lobby. Barnes looked at Grace instead. Officer Pell tried to move the leather case. Grace's eyes narrowed. Move it where? To the old evidence room. Malloy cut in. That's standard procedure. Barnes shook his head. No, sir. He said you told him to put it somewhere without cameras. The silence in the holding room changed everything. Maya closed her eyes for one breath. Malloy had not stopped her by accident. He had not only acted out of hate, he had been trying to make the case disappear. Grace turned to Malloy. You are not leaving this room. You don't have authority to hold me. I have authority to preserve a federal security incident. Malloy's face flushed. This is ridiculous. She's the suspect. No, Grace said. Right now, she's the person whose ID you refuse to verify. Maya lifted her head. Deputy Marshal Whitfield, please call Chief Judge Whitaker on a recorded line. Grace looked at her. You know Judge Whitaker? Yes. Malloy laughed. Of course she does. Everybody knows a name when they're cornered. Maya's voice stayed quiet. Tell him. Judge Maya Williams is being held in security. Grace froze. Barnes stared at Maya. Malloy's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Grace looked down at the ID in her hand. Then she read the name again. Slowly this time. Maya Williams. Her expression changed from suspicion to alarm. She stepped into the corridor, lifted her radio, and spoke with controlled urgency. Control. This is Deputy Marshal Whitfield. I need an immediate recorded line connection to Chief Judge Samuel Whitaker's chambers. Possible unlawful detention of a federal judge. Preserve all lobby footage, holding room footage, access logs, and security communications from the last 30 minutes. Malloy's face lost color. Grace, he said, don't do this. She looked back at him. You did this. Maya sat in the chair, wrists cuffed, hand aching, coat stained with coffee. She did not smile. She did not raise her voice. She only watched Malloy understand, piece by piece, that the woman he had tried to frighten was not the witness he thought he was stopping. She was the judge, and the record had already begun. If you feel what Maya just went through, hit like for her. And tell me in the comments where are you watching from. You might not be alone. Subscribe and turn on the bell, because this story is just getting started. Grace Whitfield's words stayed in the air after she said them. Possible unlawful detention of a federal judge. For the first time since Maya Williams had been dragged into the holding room, Officer Travis Malloy stopped talking. His face had gone pale beneath the red anger in his cheeks. His eyes moved from Grace's radio to Maya's cuffed hands, then to the camera in the corner. Maya sat still in the plastic chair. Her injured hand pulsed behind her back. Her coat was stained with coffee. A thin brown line had dried along the cuff of her sleeve. She could feel the swelling in her fingers, but she kept her voice small and careful. Deputy Marshal Whitfield, Maya said, please make sure the original report is preserved before it is edited. Malloy snapped back to life. There is no report yet. Maya looked at him quietly. Then there should be no problem preserving the first version. Grace turned toward Barnes, the younger security officer still standing in the doorway. Find Sergeant Odell. Tell him I want the incident log locked. No changes. No corrections. No supplemental notes until federal review. Barnes nodded quickly. Yes, ma'am. Malloy pointed at him. You don't take orders from her. Barnes looked at Grace, then at Malloy, and for the first time, he chose Grace. I'll get Odell. He disappeared down the corridor. Malloy stepped toward the door, but Grace moved in front of him. I said you're staying here. This is my detainee. No, Grace said. This is a federal incident. Maya lowered her eyes. She had learned long ago that some men became more dangerous when their power began slipping. Malloy still had his badge, his weapon, and his fear. That made him unpredictable. Her voice remained soft. Officer Malloy, if you cooperate now, the record will show that too. He laughed once, sharp and bitter. Don't talk to me like you're doing me a favor. I'm not. You think because you put judge in front of your name, everybody's supposed to bow? Maya did not answer. He leaned closer, his voice dropping. You walked in here dressed like anybody else. You played games. You wanted this. Grace cut in. Enough. No, she wanted it, Malloy said, louder now. She wanted to make a scene. She wanted cameras. She wanted to turn a security check into a race show. Maya's shoulders trembled once. She let him see it. She wanted him to keep talking. I asked you to call Chambers, she said. You refused. You waved a fake ID. You refused to scan it. You carried sealed documents through public security. I entered through the staff corridor. You spilled coffee on your own papers. Maya looked at him then. You hit the cup out of my hand. Malloy's mouth tightened. Grace looked up at the camera again. The lobby footage. We'll answer that. Malloy reached for his phone. Grace's hand went to her belt. Put it on the table. He glared at her. You want my phone? Get a warrant, Grace said. I'm ordering you not to delete, alter, or transmit anything related to this incident. Maya spoke before Malloy could answer. He already received a message. Grace turned to her. Maya kept her tone cautious. After Barnes said Officer Pell tried to move the case, Officer Malloy looked at his phone. The message said, Did she have it? Malloy's face changed. You couldn't see that. I saw enough. You're lying, Grace said. Then keep the phone intact. Malloy slid the phone into his pocket. Grace did not move toward him. She only watched. That will be noted. The radio crackled. Deputy Whitfield. Chambers confirms Chief Judge Whitaker is being notified. Stand by. Grace pressed the button. Tell Chambers this involves Judge Maya Williams. detained in holding room 2, with possible compromised court materials and a security officer attempting to move a sealed case off camera. The line went quiet for a moment. Then the dispatcher's voice returned, more tense than before. "Copy that. Chief Judge Whitaker is en route." Malloy cursed under his breath. Maya closed her eyes for 1 second. She did not feel relief yet. Relief could come later. Right now, every minute mattered. The documents in the lobby were wet. The leather case was vulnerable. Marcus Hill had not arrived. If Malloy was only the door, the people behind him were already moving. "Deputy Marshal," Maya said. "Has anyone secured courtroom B?" Grace looked at her. "Not yet. Please do. If they expected the evidence to enter through the lobby, they may try to delay the hearing or access the courtroom files." Malloy laughed. "Listen to this. Now she's running the courthouse from a chair." Maya looked down again. "I'm trying to prevent further damage." Grace pulled her radio back up. "Control. Secure courtroom B. No unauthorized entry. Lock down chambers evidence intake. Assign 2 marshals to the secondary inspection table. And keep that leather case in camera view." "Copy," the dispatcher said. Malloy's breathing grew heavier. Maya heard it. He was not just angry now. He was calculating. The door opened again. Sergeant Odell stepped in, a square-built courthouse supervisor in his late 50s with tired eyes and a coffee stain on his tie. He looked from Maya to the cuffs, then to Grace. "What the hell happened?" Malloy spoke first. "Suspicious individual refused inspection, became disruptive, and created a scene in the lobby." Grace held out Maya's ID. "He refused to verify this. He used a racial slur. He knocked coffee onto her documents. Civilians threw trash at her while he allowed the scene to escalate. He attempted to seize a sealed case. Officer Pell then tried to move that case to an old evidence room without cameras." Odell stared at Malloy. "Is that true?" Malloy said. "She's twisting everything." Maya's voice was quiet. "Sergeant, please ask the lobby witnesses before anyone leaves." Odell looked at her. "Ma'am, are you Judge Williams?" Maya hesitated. Then she nodded. "Yes." Odell's expression dropped. "My God," Malloy exploded. "You don't know that. You're all just taking her word for it." Odell looked at the ID in Grace's hand. "I know enough to stop this from getting worse." He turned to Grace. "Remove the cuffs." Malloy stepped forward. "No." Grace looked at him. "Excuse me?" "She stays cuffed until I say otherwise." Odell's voice hardened. "You don't command this room anymore." Malloy's hand twitched near his belt. It was small, but everyone saw it. Grace's tone turned cold. "Move your hand away from your weapon." Malloy froze. Maya did not move, but inside, something tightened. She had seen that motion before in too many court transcripts. Too many body cam frames paused before violence. A hand near a weapon. A report written later. A victim described as threatening. She kept her voice calm. "Officer Malloy," she said, "do not make another decision you cannot take back." His eyes locked on hers. For a moment, the room balanced on the edge of something irreversible. Then he slowly lifted his hand away from his belt. Grace stepped behind Maya and unlocked the cuffs. The metal opened around Maya's swollen wrist. Pain shot through her hand as blood moved back into her fingers. She inhaled sharply but did not cry out. Grace saw the bruising. "You need medical attention." Maya flexed her fingers carefully. "After the case is secured." Odell shook his head. "Judge Williams, with respect, you've been assaulted." Maya looked at the open door. "And the evidence may still be at risk." That silenced him. A marshal appeared in the doorway. "Deputy Whitfield, the case is secured. Pell is being held in the secondary screening area." He had the case in his hands when we arrived. Grace asked, "Was it opened?" "No, ma'am. Locked." But he had moved it out of camera range. Malloy looked away. Maya noticed. Odell turned to Malloy. "Badge and access card. Now." Malloy stared at him. "You can't be serious." "I am not asking. This is because she's black and says she's a judge." Grace stepped toward him. "No. This is because you abused a detainee, refused verification, mishandled sealed materials, and may have assisted an attempt to move evidence off camera." Malloy's phone buzzed again. No one spoke. Grace held out her hand. Phone on the table. Malloy did not move. Odell said, "Travis." The use of his first name made it worse. Malloy looked trapped, exposed, smaller than the uniform he wore. Slowly, he placed the phone on the metal table. The screen lit up. Ray Dutton. Below the name, the preview read, "If she's the judge, we have a bigger problem." Grace looked at Maya. Maya looked at the phone, then at Malloy. Her voice was still quiet. "Yes," she said. "You do." Footsteps sounded in the corridor, firm and hurried. Several people were approaching. One voice rose above the others. Older, controlled, unmistakably used to being obeyed. Chief Judge Samuel Whitaker had arrived. Maya stood carefully, cradling her injured hand. She did not straighten her coat. She did not wipe at the coffee stain. She wanted him to see all of it exactly as it was. Malloy stared at the doorway. For the first time that morning, he looked like a man who understood that the door he had tried to guard was opening against him. Chief Judge Samuel Whitaker entered the holding corridor with 2 court administrators behind him and the kind of silence that made every uniformed officer stand straighter. He was 68, tall, gray-haired, and dressed in a dark suit with a navy tie. He did not rush, but every step carried authority. His eyes went first to Maya Williams, then to her swollen hand, the coffee stain down her coat, the red marks around her wrists, and finally to Officer Travis Malloy standing beside the metal table with his phone lying face up. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Whitaker said, "Judge Williams." Maya gave a small nod. "Chief Judge Whitaker." His face tightened. "Who put those cuffs on you?" Malloy tried to speak first. "Sir, this situation has been badly misrepresented." Whitaker did not look at him. "I asked Judge Williams." Maya kept her voice low. "Officer Malloy detained me in the lobby after refusing to verify my identification. He used a racial insult, knocked coffee onto court materials, allowed sealed documents to be exposed, and attempted to seize my leather case." Malloy stepped forward. "That is not accurate." Whitaker turned to him then. "Officer Malloy, do not interrupt her again." Malloy's mouth closed. Grace Whitfield handed Whitaker the federal ID. "Sir, I verified the ID with Chambers. The lobby footage is being preserved. Holding room footage is still active. The case is secured." Officer Pell attempted to move it out of camera range before we stopped him. Whitaker's eyes darkened. "Where is Officer Pell now?" "Secondary screening area. Under watch." "Good. No one leaves this building without being identified and logged." Malloy's face went rigid. "Sir, with respect, I was acting on a security concern." "What concern?" She matched a description. Whitaker took one step closer. "What description?" Malloy hesitated. Maya watched him carefully. He had no clean answer. If he said the description aloud, he would admit someone warned him. If he denied it, the video and messages would expose him. Whitaker asked again. "Who gave you the description?" "Officer Malloy." Malloy swallowed. "It came through informal channels," Grace said. His phone received a message from Ray Dutton. The name changed Whitaker's expression. He knew it. Everyone connected to that morning's hearing knew it. Ray Dutton was a local police officer whose name appeared in sealed pre-hearing documents linked to misconduct complaints, missing forfeiture money, and altered body cam files. Whitaker looked at Malloy. "You were communicating with a subject connected to today's hearing?" Malloy shook his head quickly. "No, sir. Dutton is a former colleague. He warned me there might be a disruptive witness." Maya spoke softly. "He warned you about a black woman with a brown case." Malloy snapped. "You don't know what he said." Grace picked up Malloy's phone from the table without unlocking it and showed the visible notification to Whitaker. "Ray Dutton. If she's the judge, we have a bigger problem." Whitaker read it once. His jaw tightened. "That phone is now potential evidence," he said. "Deputy Whitfield, secure it. Sergeant Odell, notify Federal Protective Command. I want FBI Civil Rights and Public Corruption contacted immediately." Malloy's eyes widened. "FBI? Sir, that's unnecessary." Whitaker's voice remained calm. "A federal judge was detained, injured, racially insulted, and possibly obstructed on the morning of a public corruption hearing, while a courthouse officer was receiving messages from a named party in that proceeding. Necessary is a mild word. Maya lowered her gaze. She did not want sympathy in the room. Sympathy could cloud procedure. Procedure would protect the truth. "Chief Judge," she said, "my case needs to be examined for tampering and resealed under independent supervision. The wet documents from the lobby need to be photographed before anyone attempts restoration." Whitaker looked at her injured hand. "You need medical care. I will accept medical care after the chain of custody is secured." "Maya," he said, his voice softening for the first time. "You are hurt." She held his eyes. So was the record. The room went quiet. Whitaker understood. He had known Maya for years. He had seen her handle grieving mothers, dishonest officers, nervous whistleblowers, and powerful attorneys who thought volume could replace truth. But now she stood in front of him with coffee on her coat and bruises on her wrist, still thinking first of evidence. He nodded. "Then we secure the record first." Malloy gave a bitter laugh. "Of course. Everybody bows because she's Judge Williams." Maya turned to him. Her voice stayed controlled. "No one bowed when I was on the floor gathering documents while you let people throw trash at me." Malloy looked away. Whitaker stared at him. "People threw trash at her?" Grace answered. "Yes, sir." After Officer Malloy escalated the scene and called for her removal, several civilians joined in. "We have witnesses." Whitaker's face showed disgust, but his words stayed formal. "Every witness identified. Every video preserved." A marshal appeared at the doorway. "Chief Judge, the leather case is in secured intake. Locked. 2 marshals present. Camera active." Maya asked. "Was the seal broken?" "No, Judge Williams. Exterior stained with coffee, but lock intact." For the first time, Maya released a quiet breath. Then Grace's radio crackled. "Deputy Whitfield, we have an incoming protected witness asking for Judge Williams. Name is Marcus Hill. He says Officer Malloy is compromised and not to let him near any files." Malloy's head snapped toward the radio. Whitaker looked at him. Grace slowly raised the radio. "Repeat that." The dispatcher came back clearer. "Marcus Hill is at the east entrance with federal witness credentials. He says Malloy is being paid. His exact words, 'Do not let him touch the files.'" The holding room became still. Maya closed her eyes for half a second. Marcus had arrived. The real witness was alive, and he had come through another entrance. That meant Malloy had stopped the wrong woman, but not the wrong threat. The threat was the evidence, and Maya had brought enough sealed material to make him panic. Whitaker turned to Odell. "Bring Marcus Hill in through protected access. No local security. U.S. Marshals only." "Yes, sir," Malloy said. "You can't believe him. Hill is dirty. He's trying to save himself." Maya looked at him. "How do you know what Marcus Hill is trying to do?" Malloy froze. Whitaker stepped closer. "Officer Malloy, you are relieved of duty pending federal review. Remove your access card, badge, radio, and duty weapon." Malloy's face twisted. "You're taking my weapon because of her?" "No," Whitaker said. "Because of you." Malloy looked around the room, searching for someone who would stand with him. No one did. Not Grace, not Odell, not Barnes in the corridor. Even the younger officers nearby avoided his eyes. Slowly, Malloy removed his badge and access card. He placed them on the metal table. When he hesitated at his weapon, Grace rested her hand near her own holster. "Slowly," she said. Malloy complied, jaw clenched, eyes burning with hatred and fear. Maya watched without satisfaction. She felt pain in her hand, shame from the lobby, anger she refused to spend carelessly. Malloy losing his badge was not justice yet. It was only the first door opening. The radio crackled again. "Chief Judge, Marcus Hill is secured. He has documents, a flash drive, and audio recordings. He says Ray Dutton ordered Malloy to stop any black woman carrying a brown case." Whitaker looked at Maya. Maya's voice was quiet. Then Officer Malloy did not misunderstand. He obeyed. Malloy slammed his cuffed hands onto the table. "This is a setup." Maya did not flinch. "No," she said. This is what happens when the truth reaches the door you were paid to guard. Outside the holding room, footsteps moved quickly as marshals brought Marcus Hill through protected access. The courthouse that had seemed to turn against Maya only minutes earlier was changing direction, one preserved record at a time. And Officer Travis Malloy, stripped of his badge, watched the morning he had tried to control become the beginning of his undoing. Marcus Hill entered through the protected access corridor with two U.S. Marshals beside him. He looked older than his file photograph. His shoulders were tense, his face tired, and his eyes moved quickly over every uniform in the hallway before settling on Maya Williams. He held a black messenger bag close to his side. One marshal carried a sealed evidence envelope. The other held a small plastic case containing a flash drive and a digital recorder. Malloy stood near the metal table without his badge, without his weapon, and without the swagger he had carried in the lobby. His eyes locked on Marcus. "You lying coward," Malloy said. Grace Whitfield stepped in front of him. "One more word to the witness, and you will be restrained." Marcus did not answer Malloy. He looked at Maya's coffee-stained coat, the swelling in her hand, and the red marks around her wrists. "My God," he said quietly. "He thought you were me." Maya's voice stayed calm. "He thought I was carrying what you came to bring." Marcus nodded. They didn't know who would carry the files. They only knew a black person was supposed to get them inside before the hearing. Chief Judge Whitaker turned toward him. "Mr. Hill, are you prepared to make a statement on the record?" Marcus swallowed. "Yes, sir." Whitaker looked to Grace. "Recorded room. No local security. Only federal personnel." Within minutes, they moved to a secure interview room down the corridor. Maya refused medical attention again until the case and Marcus's materials were logged. Grace protested, but Maya simply raised her injured hand and said, "Pain can wait. Evidence cannot." Malloy was kept outside under watch, but the door remained open enough for him to hear the movement of people, the sealing of envelopes, the formal logging of the leather case, and the controlled voices of a system he had believed he could manipulate. Inside the interview room, Marcus placed his messenger bag on the table. His fingers shook as he opened it. "I was a patrol officer for 16 years, he began. "I worked with Ray Dutton before he made detective. I knew Malloy before he transferred to courthouse security. At first, I thought they were just rough cops. Bad language, bad stops, bad tempers. Then I saw the money." FBI agent Naomi Brooks arrived halfway through his first statement. She entered in a dark blazer, hair pulled back, eyes alert and unsmiling. She introduced herself to Maya, then to Whitaker, then sat across from Marcus with a recorder running. "Start with the money," Naomi said. Marcus nodded. It began with forfeiture cash, drug stops, traffic stops, search warrants. They'd seize 10,000. Report 6. Seize 20. Report 12. Most victims were poor. A lot of them were black. Some had records. Some didn't. But they knew nobody would believe them over police paperwork. Naomi wrote quickly. "Who handled the unreported cash?" "Dutton controlled most of it. 2 property clerks helped. Malloy wasn't on street duty anymore, but he helped when cases reached the courthouse. He knew which files were coming in, which witnesses were appearing, which videos were requested." Maya listened without interrupting. Her injured hand rested on a folded napkin. Grace had brought with ice from the staff break room. The pain was sharp, but Marcus's words cut deeper. Marcus removed a folder from his bag. Then came the camera contracts. Naomi opened it. "Security vendor, Crestline Civic Systems," Marcus said. "Private contractor. They sold upgraded body cam storage and courthouse camera management. The bids were inflated. The county paid millions more than it should have. Part of the overcharge went back to Dutton's group." Whitaker's face hardened. "And Malloy?" "Malloy made sure courthouse footage became hard to find when it helped the wrong people," Marcus said. "He knew which cameras had blind spots. He knew which rooms didn't record audio. He knew who to call when a file needed to be delayed." Grace glanced toward the door. "That explains the old evidence room." Marcus nodded. "No live feed. No automatic backup. That's where they moved things when they wanted time." Naomi lifted her eyes. "What about the victim compensation fund?" Marcus exhaled. That was the worst part. He slid another folder across the table. Inside were names, addresses, claim numbers, and copies of checks. When misconduct complaints got too loud, the city created a fund to compensate victims quietly. Some real victims were paid small amounts to go away. But then fake claims started showing up. Dead people, people who had moved, people who never filed, families who thought their case was still pending while money was issued in their name. Maya's voice was soft, and the money went back to them. Yes, Judge. Marcus looked ashamed. Through Shell, nonprofits, relatives, consulting fees. Sometimes through the camera vendor. Dutton called it cleaning the books. Naomi leaned closer. Do you have proof of altered body cam footage? Marcus reached into the plastic case and took out the flash drive. Original files and court copies. Time gaps. Muted audio. Cropped frames. In one case, the original shows an officer striking a handcuffed man. The court copy begins after the man is already on the ground. Grace looked at Maya's bruised wrist and then looked away. Marcus saw it. They do it because the first report matters. Once the report says the victim resisted, everything else has to fight uphill. Maya closed her eyes for one breath. She was 8 years old again at the kitchen table, watching her mother read the report that said her father had acted aggressively. The paper had lied with perfect grammar. It had stolen the truth before anyone asked for it. When she opened her eyes, her voice remained steady. That is how they erase people, Maya said. They write the lie first. No one spoke for a moment. Then Naomi asked, "Why come forward now?" Marcus rubbed his face. A woman named Denise Carter. Her son was beaten during a traffic stop. The body cam went missing. She filed a claim. Months later, records showed she received a settlement. She never saw $1. Her son's name was used. His pain became somebody else's paycheck. Maya's face tightened. Is she here today? Marcus nodded. In the lobby. She came, even though she was scared. Whitaker turned to Grace. Find Mrs. Carter. Put her under federal protection. Inside this building. Grace nodded and left the room. Naomi pointed to the recorder. Mr. Hill, did Ray Dutton instruct Officer Malloy to stop a black woman carrying a brown case? Yes. Exact words? Marcus looked toward the closed door, as if Malloy's presence still pressed through it. He said, We don't know who's carrying it. Stop any black woman with a case before she reaches courtroom B. Naomi's pen stopped for a moment. Whitaker looked sickened. Maya sat very still. Marcus continued. Malloy asked what if she was staff. Dutton said, Then, make her look like a threat. The room hardened around those words. Naomi asked, Did Malloy receive money for this? Marcus opened a small envelope and removed printed screenshots. 2 payments this week. One from a consulting account tied to Crestline. One cash drop logged in a message as door fee. Whitaker repeated the phrase with quiet disgust. Door fee. Marcus nodded. That's what they called him. The door. Maya looked toward the corridor where Malloy had stood between her and the courtroom. Between the evidence and the law. Between victims and the chance to be believed. He was not guarding the courthouse, Maya said. Marcus finished it for her. He was guarding the door to their money. Naomi gathered the files into separate evidence sleeves. Chief Judge, this is now beyond a civil rights violation. We have bribery, obstruction, conspiracy, possible wire fraud, evidence tampering, and theft of public funds. Whitaker stood. Then we proceed accordingly. A marshal returned with Denise Carter, a black woman in her early 60s wearing a church hat and holding a worn handbag in both hands. Her eyes were red, but her back was straight. She looked at Maya and then at Marcus. Is it true? She asked. They used my boy's name? Marcus could not meet her eyes. Yes, ma'am. Denise's mouth trembled. They told me the file was delayed. They told me to be patient. I waited 2 years. Maya rose carefully despite the pain in her hand. Mrs. Carter, I am sorry. Denise looked at her stained coat and bruised wrist. You're the lady from the lobby. Yes. They hurt you too. Maya did not answer at once. They tried to stop the truth before it reached the courtroom. Denise nodded slowly. Then don't let them. Maya held her gaze. I won't. Outside the interview room, Malloy began shouting. His voice carried down the corridor. "This is all a setup. Hill is lying. She's turning this whole courthouse against police." Naomi stood. "I need him isolated." Whitaker opened the door. Malloy was being held back by two marshals, his face twisted with panic. Whitaker spoke with controlled force. "Officer Malloy, you are suspended from all courthouse duties pending federal investigation. Your access is revoked. Your communications are seized. Any attempt to contact Ray Dutton, Crestline Civic Systems, or any witness connected to this hearing will be treated as obstruction." Malloy pointed at Maya. "She did this." Maya stepped into the doorway. Her voice was still quiet. "No, you did this when you mistook hatred for authority and corruption for loyalty." Malloy's face flushed. "You think this is over?" Naomi Brooks answered before Maya could. "No, Officer Malloy. It's just starting." Down the hall, marshals began moving witnesses into secure rooms. Technicians arrived to copy video. Court staff sealed documents. The leather case was photographed, logged, and placed under federal custody. Maya watched the courthouse shift from confusion to procedure. That was the first sign of justice. Not noise, not anger, but the careful protection of truth. Chief Judge Whitaker turned to her. "Judge Williams, courtroom B is ready when you are." Maya looked at her bruised hand, then at Denise Carter, then at Marcus Hill. "Then we begin," she said. And this time, no one stood at the door to stop her. Courtroom B was already full when Maya Williams reached the side entrance. The room did not sound like a courtroom yet. It sounded like a town holding its breath. Lawyers whispered over folders. Reporters checked their recorders. Older men and women from the community sat shoulder to shoulder in the gallery. Some dressed for church, some in work jackets, some with the tired faces of people who had come to government buildings too many times and left with nothing. Denise Carter sat in the second row, her worn handbag clutched in her lap. Marcus Hill waited near the witness room, under federal protection. FBI agent Naomi Brooks stood at the counsel table with sealed evidence sleeves stacked beside her. Maya paused, just outside the door. Her hand still ached. The swelling had spread across 2 fingers. A medic had wrapped them, but she had refused stronger treatment until the hearing began. Her coat had been replaced with a plain black robe brought from Chambers. Under it, her blouse still smelled faintly of coffee. Chief Judge Whitaker stood beside her. "You don't have to do this immediately." Maya looked through the narrow window into the courtroom. "Yes, I do. You were assaulted less than an hour ago. And if this hearing is delayed, they will say the evidence is unstable. The witnesses are confused, and the court lost control." Her voice stayed even. "That is what men like Malloy count on. They create chaos, then ask why the truth looks messy." Whitaker studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Proceed carefully." "I will." The clerk opened the door. "All rise." Every person in courtroom B stood. Maya entered slowly, not because she wanted drama, but because each step reminded her of the pain in her hand. The room saw the bandage. They saw the careful way she held her fingers. They had already heard pieces of what happened in the lobby. Some had seen the video on their phones before being ordered to silence them. Maya took the bench. "Please be seated." The room settled. She looked across the gallery, then to the lawyers, then to Naomi Brooks. Malloy was not in the room. He had been moved to a secured interview area with 2 marshals outside the door. His badge, weapon, radio, access card, and phone had been logged, but his presence remained in every uneasy silence. Maya spoke clearly. "This court convenes today for a scheduled hearing regarding alleged civil rights violations, public corruption, evidence handling failures, and misconduct involving local law enforcement and private contractors. Before we proceed, the record will reflect that an incident occurred this morning at the courthouse security entrance involving this presiding judge, courthouse security personnel, and materials connected to this proceeding." A murmur moved through the room. Maya lifted her good hand slightly. "There will be order." The room quieted. To avoid any conflict of interest, all matters involving the personal assault, detention, and racial insult directed at me by Officer Travis Malloy will be referred to an independent federal panel. However, the hearing concerning the preservation of evidence, protection of witnesses, and possible interference with this proceeding will continue. A defense attorney at the side table stood quickly. Your Honor, given the extraordinary circumstances, we move to postpone. The court's impartiality may reasonably be questioned. Maya looked at him. Counsel, your motion is noted. It is denied as to evidence preservation and witness protection. No party benefits from delay when there is credible risk of tampering. The attorney tried again. Your Honor, my clients have a right to due process. They do, Maya said, and so do the people whose files were altered, whose complaints were buried, whose settlement funds may have been stolen, and whose testimony someone attempted to stop at the door this morning. The attorney sat down. Naomi Brooks stood. Your Honor, the government requests immediate entry of preservation orders covering courthouse video, security communications, access logs, Officer Malloy's personal and duty communications, the secured leather case belonging to Judge Williams, all materials delivered by witness Marcus Hill, and records related to Crestline Civic Systems, local forfeiture accounts, and the Municipal Victim Compensation Fund. Granted, Maya said. The clerk began typing. Naomi continued. We further request emergency protection for Marcus Hill, Denise Carter, and any witnesses identified in the damaged lobby documents. Granted. Another attorney rose. Your Honor, we object to the characterization of any documents as damaged evidence before proper review. Maya turned toward him. Then let the record reflect. The documents were photographed in place, collected by federal personnel, and sealed under supervision. Their condition will be reviewed by evidence technicians. No conclusion is being drawn beyond the visible fact of damage. The attorney lowered himself into his seat. Maya looked to the side door. Bring in Marcus Hill. Marcus entered under guard. He looked smaller in the courtroom than he had in the interview room, but he did not turn away. He took the oath with a shaking hand. Naomi approached. Mr. Hill, did you provide documents, recordings, and digital files to federal authorities this morning? Yes. Were you expected to testify in this hearing? Yes. Did anyone attempt to prevent you or your evidence from reaching this courtroom? Marcus looked toward the gallery, then back at Naomi. Yes. Who? Ray Dutton's group. And Officer Travis Malloy at the courthouse door. A low sound moved through the room. Denise Carter closed her eyes. Naomi asked, How do you know Officer Malloy was involved? Marcus swallowed. Because Ray Dutton told him to stop any black woman carrying a brown case before she reached courtroom B. Naomi held up a printed copy of a message log. Is this the message you provided? Yes. Read the relevant line. Marcus's voice cracked slightly. Black female witness may carry files in a brown case. Stop her before she reaches courtroom B. The courtroom went silent. Maya kept her face still, but her injured fingers curled against the bench. Naomi asked, Did Officer Malloy know the woman he stopped was Judge Williams? Not at first. And after he learned? Marcus looked down. The message on his phone said, If she's the judge, we have a bigger problem. The clerk's typing seemed very loud. Naomi turned to the court. Your Honor, the government submits that this morning's incident is direct evidence of attempted obstruction connected to this hearing. Accepted for limited preservation purposes, Maya said. The independent panel will rule on admissibility for any criminal proceeding involving Officer Malloy. From the gallery, Denise Carter stood suddenly. Your Honor, Maya looked at her. Mrs. Carter, please wait to be called. Denise's voice trembled. I just need to know if my son's name is in those files. Naomi turned gently. Mrs. Carter, we believe it is. Denise pressed a hand to her mouth. They told me to wait. They told me the city was processing it. Maya's voice softened, but remained formal. Mrs. Carter, you will be heard. Not out of turn, not in confusion, but fully, and on the record. Denise sat slowly, crying without sound. Maya looked across the courtroom. That is why this hearing will not be delayed. No one objected. At the back of the room, the doors opened briefly. Two marshals passed outside with a sealed evidence cart. On top of it sat Maya's brown leather case, stained but locked, guarded now by federal hands. Every eye followed it. Maya watched it too. That case had belonged to her father. That morning, Malloy had tried to turn it into contraband. Now it moved through the courthouse as protected evidence. Naomi spoke again. Your Honor, we are prepared to present preliminary findings on forfeiture discrepancies, body cam alterations, and inflated security contracts. Maya nodded. Proceed. The screens at the front of the courtroom came to life. The first image appeared. 2 versions of the same body cam file. One marked original, one marked court copy. Marcus lowered his head. Denise Carter stared at the screen. Maya leaned forward slightly. The courthouse was no longer whispering. The truth had entered the room. Naomi Brooks stood beside the courtroom screen as the 2 body cam files appeared side by side. One file was labeled original. The other was labeled court copy. The courtroom did not move. Even the reporters stopped typing for a moment. Naomi picked up a remote. Your Honor, the government will begin with Exhibit 12A, the original body cam footage from the arrest of Daniel Carter, son of Mrs. Denise Carter, seated in the gallery. Denise Carter's hands tightened around her worn handbag. She did not look away. Naomi continued. Exhibit 12B is the version later submitted to Defense Counsel, City Review, and Civil Settlement Administrators. Both files came from the evidence provided by Marcus Hill this morning. Maya looked toward Marcus. Mr. Hill, do you understand that your testimony remains under oath? Yes, Your Honor. Proceed, Agent Brooks. Naomi started the first video. The original footage showed a rainy night on a residential street. Police lights flashed against wet pavement. Daniel Carter stood beside an older sedan, hands raised, voice calm. I'm reaching for my registration, Daniel said in the video. An officer shouted, Don't move. Daniel froze. I'm not moving. The next seconds were hard to watch. An officer shoved him against the car. Another struck him in the ribs. Daniel cried out that he was not resisting. One officer cursed. Then came the sound of a body hitting pavement. In the gallery, Denise Carter made a sound that was not a word. Maya's face remained composed, but her injured hand tightened beneath the bench. Naomi paused the video. Now, the court copy. The second file began 32 seconds later. Daniel was already on the ground. An officer was saying, Stop resisting. The strike, the shove, the first command. And Daniel's raised hands were gone. A defense attorney stood. Your Honor, we object to emotional display of unverified footage. Maya looked at him. Sit down, counsel. Your Honor, this hearing concerns whether evidence was altered. The comparison is directly relevant. Sit down. He sat. Naomi turned back to the screen. Metadata shows the court copy was exported from a workstation registered to the local department's digital evidence unit. That workstation was accessed by Detective Ray Dutton's credentials. Marcus spoke quietly. Dutton didn't always do it himself. Sometimes he made younger officers use his login. That way, if it came back, he could say someone stole access. Naomi asked, Was Officer Malloy connected to these files? Yes, Marcus said. When cases came to the courthouse, Malloy would alert Dutton if attorneys requested full footage. He knew when discovery deadlines were coming. He knew which files were being challenged. Naomi clicked to another slide. A spreadsheet appeared with dates, case numbers, and dollar amounts. These are forfeiture discrepancies, she said. Cash seized in arrests compared with cash logged into property records. Maya leaned forward. Explain the pattern. Naomi pointed to the first line. Traffic stop. Seized amount reported by victim. $8,400. Property entry. $3,100. Missing amount. $5,300. She moved down the list. Search warrant. Reported by family. $22,000. Property entry. $14,000. Missing amount. $8,000. Another line. Another missing sum. Then another. The numbers filled the screen like a second indictment. Marcus looked ashamed. They picked people they thought nobody would believe. People with old charges. People behind on bills. People afraid of court. Sometimes immigrants. Sometimes elderly folks carrying cash because they didn't trust banks. A man in the back row said, Lord have mercy. Maya looked toward the gallery. There will be order, but this court understands the gravity of what is being shown. Naomi advanced to the next exhibit. Now the Victim Compensation Fund. The screen showed claim forms, names, signatures, check numbers, addresses. Denise Carter stood halfway before catching herself. "That's my son." Maya turned to her. "Mrs. Carter, please remain seated. You will be called." Denise sat, shaking. Naomi said, "The record shows a settlement check issued under Daniel Carter's case number for $48,000. Mrs. Carter has stated she never received it. The endorsement signature does not match her known signature. The account receiving the deposit was opened through a shell nonprofit called Community Restoration Alliance," Marcus added. "That nonprofit was controlled by a cousin of Ray Dutton's wife." Naomi clicked again. "And Community Restoration Alliance made payments to Crestline Civic Systems under consulting invoices." The next slide showed Crestline's contract. Crestline Civic Systems held contracts for body cam storage upgrades, courthouse camera maintenance, and evidence management support. Contract prices were inflated above comparable county bids by roughly 40%. Payments from Crestline-linked consulting accounts later appear in accounts connected to Ray Dutton, 2 property clerks, and Officer Travis Malloy. Malloy's name appeared on the screen. A murmur spread through the courtroom. Maya struck the gavel once. "Order," Naomi continued. 2 payments to Officer Malloy occurred in the week before today's hearing. 1 electronic transfer labeled security consulting. 1 cash delivery referenced in text messages as a door fee. A reporter whispered, "Door fee." Maya heard it. So did everyone else. Naomi looked at Marcus. "Mr. Hill, explain that phrase." Marcus lifted his head. Malloy was the door. That's what Dutton called him. If a witness came in scared, Malloy could delay them. If evidence came in without a lawyer, he could misplace it. If someone black came in angry because they'd been ignored for years, he could provoke them until they looked unstable. Maya's eyes moved to Denise Carter, then to the elderly veteran from the lobby now seated near the back. He had stayed. He had given his name as a witness. His jaw was clenched as he listened. Naomi asked, "Was that the today?" Marcus nodded. "They knew I had files. They didn't know how I would bring them in. They thought a black woman was carrying them. Dutton told Malloy to stop her before courtroom B." Naomi said, "And when Malloy realized the woman was Judge Williams?" Marcus looked at the screen where Malloy's message had been enlarged. "If she's the judge, we have a bigger problem." "That's when they panicked," Marcus said. Maya let the silence sit for a moment. She wanted the room to feel the weight of the sentence. Not for herself. For every person whose evidence had vanished before a judge ever saw it. Then she spoke. "The court finds sufficient basis to continue emergency preservation orders. All digital evidence systems connected to Crestline Civic Systems are to be mirrored by independent federal technicians. All local access credentials are suspended pending review. All forfeiture accounts named in these exhibits are frozen until further order." One of the city attorneys stood, his face pale. "Your Honor, freezing accounts will disrupt municipal operations." Maya turned to him. "So did stealing from citizens." He sat down without another word. Naomi requested permission to call Denise Carter. Maya granted it. Denise walked to the witness stand slowly. She placed one hand on the Bible, took the oath, and sat with her handbag still in her lap. Naomi's voice softened. "Mrs. Carter, did you ever receive $48,000 from the city in connection with your son's case?" "No, ma'am." "Were you told a payment had been made?" "No. They told me my file was under review. Every time I called, they said, 'Be patient.'" "How long did you wait?" Denise looked at Maya. 2 years, 3 months, and 11 days. The courtroom fell silent again. Naomi asked, "Why did you keep calling?" Denise's lips trembled. "Because my boy kept asking if anybody believed him, and I told him the truth would come if we waited long enough." Maya looked down for a moment. Her father's words moved through her mind. "Never let hatred make you smaller than the truth," Denise continued. Then he stopped asking. Naomi paused. "Why?" "Because he didn't believe me anymore." No one moved. Maya's voice was gentle but formal. "Mrs. Carter, the court hears you." Denise closed her eyes, and tears slipped down her face. "Thank you, Your Honor." At the side door, Grace Whitfield entered quietly and handed Naomi a note. Naomi read it, then looked up. Your Honor, federal technicians have recovered a deleted courthouse message from Officer Pell's device. It appears to be from Officer Malloy. Maya's gaze sharpened. Read it. Naomi looked at the page. Move the brown case to old evidence. No cameras. Wait for Dutton. A heavy silence filled courtroom B. Maya looked toward the sealed evidence cart where her father's leather case rested under federal guard. Then she turned back to the room. The court will recess for 15 minutes, she said. During that time, FBI public corruption will be given full access to courthouse security logs, communications, and all personnel connected to the handling of that case. She struck the gavel once, but before anyone stood, Denise Carter looked across the courtroom at Marcus Hill. Mr. Hill, she said, voice trembling. Did you know about my son? Marcus lowered his head. Yes, ma'am. Did you help hide it? He swallowed. I stayed quiet. Denise nodded slowly, pain and anger mixing on her face. Then speak now. Don't you dare stop halfway. Marcus looked at Maya, then at Naomi, then back at Denise. I won't, he said. Maya rose from the bench. Her bandaged hand held close. The room stood with her. This time, it was not respect for a title alone. It was respect for the truth finally entering through a door someone had been paid to close. The 15-minute recess did not quiet the courthouse. It moved the noise into the hallways. Outside courtroom B, reporters pressed against the rope line while U.S. Marshals kept them back. Phones buzzed in every hand. Clips from the lobby had already spread across local news feeds. Maya on her knees gathering wet documents. Malloy standing over her. People shouting for her to be thrown out. Trash hitting her coat. But now another story was spreading faster. The woman Malloy had humiliated was not a witness. She was the federal judge, and the evidence he tried to stop was tied to a corruption ring. Inside a secure conference room behind the courtroom, Maya Williams sat at the end of a long table with an ice pack against her hand. Grace Whitfield stood near the door. Naomi Brooks reviewed a stack of printed message logs. Chief Judge Whitaker spoke quietly with a federal prosecutor on a secure phone. Maya did not speak for several minutes. Her mind stayed on Denise Carter's words. Then he stopped asking. That was what corruption did. It did not only steal money. It trained people to stop believing the truth would ever matter. Naomi looked up from the logs. Judge Williams, we have a new problem. Maya lowered the ice pack. What is it? Someone is pushing a story to local media that you staged this morning's incident to influence the hearing. Grace muttered. Of course they are. Naomi placed a phone on the table. The headline was already live on a small neighborhood news site. Federal judge, accused of anti-police bias after courthouse clash. Maya read the line without expression. Whitaker ended his call and came closer. Who is behind it? Naomi swiped to the next screen. The article cites unnamed law enforcement sources. It claims Judge Williams entered through a restricted corridor without proper clearance, refused inspection, spilled coffee on her own documents, and created a racial controversy to discredit police witnesses. Grace's face hardened. That is a lie from beginning to end. Yes, Naomi said, but it is already being shared. Maya set the phone down. By whom? Naomi pointed to a list. Accounts tied to police advocacy pages, 2 city contractors, and 1 communications consultant who previously worked with Crestline Civic Systems. Whitaker exhaled through his nose. They are trying to poison the public record. No, Maya said quietly. They are trying to do to me what they did to Mrs. Carter's son. The room went still. Maya continued. Write the lie first. Force the truth to spend years catching up. Naomi nodded. There's more. Ray Dutton's phone is now off. Crestline's local office has locked its doors. 2 property clerks called in sick within the last 10 minutes. Grace looked toward the hallway. They're running. They're destroying, Naomi said. Or trying to. Whitaker turned to the federal prosecutor on speaker. Can we get emergency warrants? The prosecutor answered. Drafting now. We need probable cause, linking Crestline systems to altered evidence and bribery. Naomi lifted the printed message from Malloy to Pell. We have Malloy ordering the case moved off camera. We have Ray Dutton warning him. We have Marcus Hill's sworn testimony. We have payment records, Maya added. And we have an active attempt to misrepresent a federal court proceeding to intimidate witnesses and undermine the court. The prosecutor said, "That helps. I'll move for emergency seizure of Crestline's local servers, Dutton's devices, and the municipal forfeiture account records." Whitaker said, "Do it." Grace's radio crackled. "Deputy Whitfield, we have demonstrators gathering outside. 2 groups, one demanding police accountability, one backing Officer Malloy. Local media is requesting a statement." Grace answered, "Hold the line. No one enters without clearance." Maya stood carefully. "I will make a statement from the bench when we reconvene. Not to the press, to the record." Whitaker looked concerned. "Maya, they are trying to bait you. I know. They want you angry. I know that too." She looked at the bandage on her hand. "My father used to say dignity is not silence. It is choosing the right place to speak." No one argued. When court reconvened, the room was more crowded than before. The gallery had filled with local officials, attorneys, victims, and officers from agencies that suddenly understood the hearing could reach them. The air was tense. Every eye followed Maya as she returned to the bench. "All rise." The courtroom stood. Maya sat, then let everyone sit. Before Naomi could resume, a city attorney rose. "Your Honor, we renew our motion to postpone in light of media reports questioning the court's impartiality." Maya looked at him. "Denied. Your Honor, the appearance of bias." "The appearance of bias," Maya said, "does not arise because a judge was targeted by the very obstruction this hearing was convened to examine." The attorney hesitated. Maya continued, her voice steady. "The court is aware of reports circulating outside this room. Let the record reflect that public relations campaigns do not control federal evidence. Headlines are not motions. Anonymous sources are not sworn testimony. This hearing will proceed." The gallery remained silent. Naomi stood. "Your Honor, the government calls Deputy Marshal Grace Whitfield." Grace took the oath and sat straight in the witness chair. Naomi approached. "Deputy Whitfield, did you witness the interaction between Officer Malloy and Judge Williams this morning?" "Yes." "Did Judge Williams raise her voice?" "No." "Did she threaten Officer Malloy?" "No." "Did she present identification?" "Yes." "Did Officer Malloy scan or verify it?" "No." "Did he strike the coffee cup from her hand?" "Yes." "Did he open or expose documents after being told they were sealed?" "Yes." "Did civilians throw trash at Judge Williams?" Grace's jaw tightened. "Yes." "Did Officer Malloy intervene to protect her?" "No." "What did he do instead?" "He continued detaining her and attempted to seize her case." Naomi paused. "Did you later learn that Officer Malloy had been warned to stop a black woman with a brown case?" "Yes." "Based on what you witnessed, did Officer Malloy appear to be conducting a neutral security inspection?" Grace looked directly at Malloy's empty seat at the side of the courtroom. "No. He appeared to be creating a reason to take the case." The words landed cleanly. Naomi then called Eddie Barnes. The young officer looked nervous as he took the oath. "Officer Barnes," Naomi said, "what did Officer Pell tell you regarding Judge Williams's leather case?" Barnes swallowed. "He said Malloy told him to move it to the old evidence room." "Did he say why?" Barnes looked at Maya, then back at Naomi. "He said there were no cameras there." A heavy murmur moved through the gallery. Maya struck the gavel once. "Order." Naomi submitted the recovered message. "Move the brown case to old evidence. No cameras. Wait for Dutton." The defense objected. Maya overruled for preservation purposes. Then Naomi turned to the financial records. "Your Honor, FBI technicians have confirmed that Officer Malloy received 2 payments connected to Crestline Civic Systems within 7 days of this hearing. One transfer was labeled Security Consulting. The second was referenced in messages as a door fee." Naomi displayed the records. Malloy's name appeared beside the deposits. Maya saw Denise Carter look at the screen, saw Marcus Hill close his eyes, saw 2 city officials whisper, then stop when Naomi looked their way. A marshal entered quietly and handed Naomi another note. Naomi read it, and her face changed. "Your Honor, federal agents have reached Crestline's local office. Employees were attempting to remove hard drives." The courtroom stirred. Naomi continued. Agents also report that Ray Dutton was stopped outside his home with 2 phones, a laptop, and a box of cash. Someone in the gallery whispered, "Jesus." Maya leaned forward. "Were the items secured?" "Yes, Your Honor. Pending warrant execution." Maya turned to the clerk. "Enter that update into the record. All parties are ordered to preserve communications, financial records, body cam files, contract documents, settlement records, and forfeiture logs. Any destruction, deletion, or transfer from this point forward will be treated as possible obstruction." A city attorney rose again, but this time he did not sound confident. "Your Honor, may the city request guidance regarding access to operational funds?" 40. Maya looked at him. "The city may pay salaries, emergency services, and essential operations. It may not move funds connected to forfeiture accounts, compensation claims, security contracts, or evidence management vendors without federal approval." He nodded and sat. Then Maya looked across the courtroom. This hearing began because citizens claimed evidence was altered, money disappeared, and complaints were buried. This morning, an officer tried to stop sealed materials from reaching this room. That fact will not derail the hearing. It confirms why the hearing is necessary. No one spoke. Naomi called the next witness, a retired records clerk named Helen Marsh, a white woman in her 70s with a cane and a thin folder clutched to her chest. She moved slowly to the stand. After the oath, Naomi asked, "Mrs. Marsh, why did you come forward?" Helen's voice trembled. "Because I saw checks issued to people who never came to the office. I saw signatures that looked copied. I told my supervisor. He told me to enjoy my pension and stop asking questions." "Did you keep records?" Helen nodded and opened the folder. "I made copies. I know I wasn't supposed to. But I'm old enough to know when silence becomes sin." Maya looked at her for a moment. That sentence moved through the room more deeply than any accusation. Naomi accepted the folder and submitted it for federal custody. Helen turned toward Denise Carter. "Mrs. Carter, I saw your son's file. I'm sorry. I should have spoken sooner." Denise's eyes filled again, but this time her voice was steady. "Then speak now." Helen nodded. "I will." Maya looked down at the bench, then back at the courtroom. The story was no longer about one officer at a door. It was about everyone who had watched the door close and said nothing. Outside, the crowd chanted faintly through the thick courthouse windows. One side shouted for Malloy, the other shouted for justice. Inside courtroom B, the record kept growing. Maya lifted her gavel. "The court will continue," she said. And for the first time that day, the people who had waited years to be believed began to understand that the lie was finally running out of places to hide. Helen Marsh's copies changed the direction of the hearing. Until that moment, the courtroom had heard about missing money, altered video, and a courthouse officer paid to guard the wrong door. But Helen's folder made the corruption feel older, quieter, and more deliberate. It was not a few bad choices made in panic. It was a system of forms, signatures, invoices, and silence. Naomi Brooks placed Helen's documents under the evidence camera. The first page appeared on the courtroom screen, a compensation claim with Denise Carter's name typed neatly across the top. Denise sat forward. Naomi said, "Mrs. Marsh, do you recognize this form?" Helen adjusted her glasses. "Yes, that is the claim form attached to Daniel Carter's case." "Did you personally process this file?" "No. It was marked as processed before it reached my desk." "What made you suspicious?" Helen pointed at the signature line. Mrs. Carter's name was signed in blue ink, but the pressure marks were wrong. "I worked records for 34 years. You learn how people sign when they're nervous, angry, tired. This looked traced." Naomi turned to Denise. "Mrs. Carter, is that your signature?" Denise stared at the screen. Her face tightened. "No, ma'am. That is not my hand." Naomi asked, "Did you receive the settlement listed here?" "No." The amount appeared on the screen. $48,000. A low murmur moved through the gallery. Maya lifted her gavel but did not strike it. The room quieted on its own. Naomi advanced to the next page. "Mrs. Marsh, what is this?" "A disbursement record," Helen said. It shows payment made to Community Restoration Alliance. Was Community Restoration Alliance a victim? No. A family member? No. A law firm representing Mrs. Carter? No. Naomi paused. Then why would victim compensation funds be paid there? Helen's voice shook. Because somebody made the system believe they were authorized to receive it. Naomi placed another document under the camera. And who approved the transfer? Helen looked at the screen. Ray Dutton's authorization code appears in the approval chain. The courtroom stirred. Naomi continued. And after Community Restoration Alliance received the money, what happened? Helen glanced at her folder. Within 3 business days, 2 outgoing payments were made. One to a consulting account tied to Crestline Civic Systems. Another to a personal account belonging to a relative of a city property clerk. Maya watched Denise Carter press a hand over her mouth. The older woman's grief had changed shape. Earlier it had been disbelief. Now it was confirmation. The pain had a paper trail. Naomi turned to the court. Your Honor, the government requests emergency authority to freeze Community Restoration Alliance accounts, Crestline-linked consulting accounts, and any downstream accounts receiving victim compensation funds within the last 5 years. A city attorney rose. Your Honor, that scope is excessive. Maya looked at him. Counsel, a mother's settlement was diverted through a false claim, while her son waited 2 years to be believed. Excessive is not the word this court will use today. The attorney sat down. Request granted, Maya said. The order will be limited to accounts reasonably connected to the presented records, pending full review. Naomi nodded. The government next calls Agent Peter Lang, from the FBI Digital Forensics Unit. A man in his 50s with a trimmed gray beard took the stand. He carried himself like someone more comfortable with servers than courtrooms. After the oath, Naomi asked, Agent Lang, did your team examine the body cam files submitted by Marcus Hill? Yes. What did you find? We found multiple file pairs. In each pair, the original contained longer footage than the version later submitted to city review or legal proceedings. The edits were not simple compression errors. They were deliberate cuts. Naomi asked, were the edits traceable? In several cases, yes. The files passed through Crestline Civic Systems evidence management platform. The export logs show user access from local police accounts, including credentials assigned to Ray Dutton. We also found administrative override tokens linked to a Crestline technician. Can deleted logs be recovered? Some already have been. A screen displayed recovered metadata, timestamps, login IDs, export history, altered file durations. Agent Lang pointed to one line. This file was accessed at 2:14 a.m., exported at 2:29 a.m., and the court copy was created at 2:31 a.m. The original was then moved to a restricted archive. Naomi asked, was there any legitimate reason? Non-documented. Maya leaned forward. Agent Lang, can your team secure the full platform? We can mirror it, Your Honor. But we need immediate access before remote deletion occurs. Maya looked to the clerk. Emergency access order granted. FBI Digital Forensics is authorized to preserve, mirror, and secure relevant Crestline systems connected to law enforcement evidence, storage, courthouse camera management, and body cam export logs. Naomi's phone buzzed. She read the message, then looked to Maya. Your Honor, agents at Crestline report that a remote wipe command was initiated 4 minutes ago. It was interrupted. The room went silent. Maya's voice stayed calm. By whom? Federal technicians on site. They stopped the command before completion. Source: preliminary trace indicates the command originated from a laptop seized from Ray Dutton's vehicle. Denise Carter whispered. He was still trying. Maya heard her. Yes, Maya said from the bench, and now that will be part of the record. At the back of the courtroom, the doors opened. 2 marshals brought Travis Malloy in, not as an officer, but as a suspended courthouse employee under federal supervision. His hands were not cuffed, but he was flanked closely on both sides. His uniform looked different without the badge. Empty fabric marked where authority had been. Naomi turned. Your Honor, The government requested Malloy be present for identification related to recovered communications. Maya looked at him. He did not meet her eyes. You may proceed. Naomi displayed a text chain between Ray Dutton and Travis Malloy. Dutton. Black female witness may carry files in a brown case. Stop her before she reaches courtroom B. Malloy. What if she's staff? Dutton. Make her look like a threat. Malloy. If she fights? Dutton. Even better. The courtroom reacted before Maya could stop it. Gasps. Anger. A man cursed under his breath. Denise Carter began crying again, but this time her crying carried rage. Maya struck the gavel once. Order. Naomi read the next line. Malloy. Door fee better be worth this. Dutton. It will be. Naomi turned toward Malloy. Officer Malloy. Is this your phone number? Malloy's attorney, who had arrived only minutes earlier, stood quickly. My client invokes his Fifth Amendment rights and will not answer questions. Naomi nodded. Understood. The government submits the message records for preservation and authentication. Maya accepted them for that limited purpose. The attorney looked at Maya. Your Honor, given your direct involvement with my client, we again object to these proceedings continuing under your supervision. Maya's expression did not change. And again, the objection is preserved. As I stated earlier, any criminal determination regarding Officer Malloy's assault, racial misconduct, and obstruction involving me personally will be referred to an independent panel. This court is addressing emergency preservation, witness protection, and ongoing risk to evidence. The attorney opened his mouth, then closed it. Maya looked at Malloy. Only then did he look back. The lobby came back to her. Coffee hitting the table, papers spreading on the marble. His boot cheer her hand. The voices calling for her removal. She could have let anger speak. The room almost expected it. She did not give them that. Mr. Malloy, she said, using no title. You will not communicate with Ray Dutton, Crestline Civic Systems, Officer Pell, any local property clerk, any witness, or any victim connected to this matter. You will surrender all personal devices and submit to federal restrictions pending review. His attorney began. Your Honor. Maya raised one hand. Counsel. Your client may challenge the order through appropriate motion. Until then, the order stands. Malloy stared at her. The hatred was still there, but it was weaker now, crowded by fear. Naomi then called Marcus Hill back to the stand. Mr. Hill, she said, what was the purpose of the phrase door fee? Marcus looked at Malloy. Malloy was paid when he kept evidence or witnesses from reaching the courtroom. Sometimes it was delay, sometimes intimidation, sometimes paperwork disappearing. Was today supposed to be one of those times? Yes. Did they know they were targeting Judge Williams? No. They thought she was a witness. But once they learned who she was, they tried to make her look dishonest too. Naomi asked, how? Marcus answered, by pushing stories that she was anti-police, that she staged the confrontation, that the coffee spill was her fault, and that the hearing was political. Maya looked down at the bench. That part had already begun. Naomi faced the courtroom. Your Honor, the government submits that the smear campaign currently spreading outside this courtroom is part of the same obstruction pattern. Maya nodded. The court will not rule on motive at this stage, but all related communications are to be preserved. Suddenly, Denise Carter stood. Your Honor, may I say one thing? Her attorney tried to pull her down gently, but Maya looked at her. Briefly, Mrs. Carter. Denise faced the room. Not Malloy. For 2 years, they made me feel crazy. They said my son was violent. They said the video showed enough. They said the money was coming. They said be patient. Her voice broke. Today I found out they had the video, they had the money, and they had the truth. They just kept it from us. No one interrupted her. She looked at Maya. Please don't let them hide behind procedure now. Maya's answer was quiet. Procedure is how we bring them into the light, Mrs. Carter. But I promise you this court will not let procedure become a hiding place. Denise sat down. The room held that promise in silence. Maya turned to Naomi. Continue. Naomi lifted the next folder. Your Honor, The government now moves to present evidence linking the forfeiture cash discrepancies to the same network. At that moment, a marshal entered from the side and handed Whitaker a note. Whitaker read it, then passed it to Maya. Ray Dutton has been taken into federal custody. Maya read the note once, then looked at the courtroom. The record will reflect that Ray Dutton has been detained by federal authorities. This hearing will continue. Malloy's shoulders dropped. Marcus Hill closed his eyes. Denise Carter whispered, "Thank God." Maya set the note beside the gavel. The day had begun with one man telling her to go back to Africa. Now the same man sat under federal restriction, his payments exposed, his messages entered into record, and the officer who had directed him in custody. But Maya knew this was not the end. It was only the moment when fear changed sides. "Agent Brooks," she said, "bring the forfeiture records forward," and the courtroom turned to the next layer of the truth. Naomi Brooks brought the forfeiture records forward in 3 sealed binders and 1 digital ledger copied from Marcus Hill's flash drive. The courtroom screen changed from body cam files to rows of numbers. Dates, arrest locations, reported cash amounts, property room entries, and final deposit totals appeared in clean columns. The neatness made the theft feel colder. Naomi stood beside the screen. "Your Honor, these records compare citizen statements, arrest reports, property room entries, bank deposit slips, and internal communications tied to cash seizures over a 5-year period." Maya looked at the first page. "How many cases?" 47 confirmed discrepancies so far. "We expect more." The gallery stirred. Naomi pointed to the first line. "Case number 18 to 4,412. Traffic stop involving a small business owner named Leonard Price. Mr. Price stated that officers seized $12,000 in cash from his work van after a catering event. The arrest report lists 7,000. The property room logged 6,800. The deposit record shows 6,000. A man in the 3rd row stood slowly. He was in his 60s, broad-shouldered, wearing a brown suit and a tie that had gone slightly crooked. That was me. Maya looked at him. "Sir, please state your name." "Leonard Price, Your Honor." Naomi turned. "Mr. Price, you will be called in order." The man nodded, but his face was tight with old anger. "They told me I must have counted wrong. I've been running a catering business for 31 years. I know how to count money." Maya's voice softened. "You will be heard, Mr. Price." He sat down, wiping one hand over his mouth. Naomi continued. "Case number 19 to 2,048. Arrest of Pamela Reed. Cash reported by family, $9,200. Property log, 4,900. Final deposit, 4,500. An older woman near the back whispered, "That's my sister." Naomi did not pause. Case number 20 to 7,711. Search warrant at the home of Anthony Bell. Family reported $31,000 removed from a safe. Property log, 18,000. Deposit, 17,200. The numbers kept coming. Maya watched the faces in the gallery change. Some people looked stunned. Others looked as if they were finally hearing aloud what they had known in their bones for years. Naomi clicked to the next slide. Now we compare missing amounts with deposits into accounts connected to Community Restoration Alliance, Crestline Civic Systems Consulting subsidiaries, and 2 personal accounts tied to property room personnel. A new chart appeared. Money that vanished from seizure records reappeared days or weeks later in consulting payments, reimbursement claims, and cash deposits, divided into amounts small enough to avoid attention. Maya leaned forward. "Agent Brooks, explain the pattern plainly." Naomi nodded. Cash was taken during arrests. Reports were altered to show lower amounts. The missing money was divided. Some was kept directly. Some was moved through fake consulting invoices. Some was used to fund false victim compensation claims, making it appear as if the city was paying settlements while the money returned to people inside the network. A defense attorney rose. "Your Honor, the government is presenting conclusions before authentication." Maya turned to him. "The court understands. These are preliminary findings. The purpose is preservation and emergency relief. Your objection is noted." The attorney sat. Naomi called Leonard Price to the stand. He took the oath with one hand raised and the other gripping the rail. "Mr. Price," Naomi said, "what happened on the night of the 14th of May 2018? "I was driving back from a wedding job," he said. "My van still smelled like barbecue and peach cobbler. I had cash from the event in a lockbox because the bride's father paid in cash. 2 officers stopped me. Said my taillight was out. It wasn't. Did they search your van?" "Yes, ma'am." Said they smelled marijuana. "I never had drugs in that van. I had brisket pans and folding trays." Some people in the gallery gave sad, knowing laughs. Leonard continued. "They found the lockbox. I explained the money. I had invoices, receipts, business cards. They said it looked like drug money. Took me in. Charges were dropped later, but the cash didn't come back. Not all of it." "How much was missing?" $6,000. Naomi asked. "Did you file a complaint?" "Yes. Detective Dutton told me the paperwork showed less money than I claimed. Said unless I could prove different, I should be grateful I wasn't charged." Leonard looked at Maya. "I stopped catering big jobs after that. Couldn't trust carrying cash. Lost clients. Lost pride." Maya nodded slowly. "Thank you, Mr. Price." As he stepped down, Malloy sat at the side of the room with his attorney, avoiding Leonard's eyes. The empty spot on his chest where his badge had been looked larger now. Naomi called Agent Peter Lang back briefly. He confirmed that several forfeiture logs had been edited from courthouse-accessible terminals. One access point was Malloy's station. Another was the old evidence room. Could Officer Malloy alter city police forfeiture logs directly? Naomi asked. Not the source database, Lang said. But he could access scanned records, delay transfers, and substitute uploaded copies during court intake. Meaning? Meaning, if a lawyer requested seizure documents, the version entering the court file could already be altered. Maya looked toward the evidence cart. And if the original was moved to an unmonitored room, it could disappear before anyone compared versions. Naomi turned to the court. Your Honor, the government requests immediate federal custody of all physical forfeiture records connected to the listed cases. Granted. A city attorney stood again, looking more exhausted than combative. Your Honor, the city requests permission to cooperate through appointed counsel. Maya looked at him. That would be wise. The next witness was Officer Eddie Barnes. He looked pale as he returned to the stand. Naomi asked, Officer Barnes, did you ever see Officer Malloy handle documents related to police misconduct cases? Yes. Where? Sometimes at secondary inspection. Sometimes near the old evidence room. Did that seem unusual? At first, no. He had seniority. People listened to him. Did you ever hear him discuss witness files? Barnes hesitated. Maya watched him. Officer Barnes, you are under oath. He nodded. Yes, Your Honor. He looked at Naomi. He said witnesses were easier to handle before they got in front of a judge. Naomi asked, what did you understand that to mean? Barnes's voice dropped. Scare them, delay them, make them angry, then write them up as unstable. Maya felt the courtroom absorb the words. Naomi asked, did that happen to Judge Williams this morning? Barnes swallowed. Yes. Malloy's attorney stood. Objection. Calls for conclusion. Maya said, sustained as to conclusion. The answer will be limited to what the witness observed. Naomi nodded. What did you observe? Barnes looked ashamed. I saw Judge Williams speak quietly. I saw Officer Malloy refuse to check her ID. I saw him knock the coffee. I saw people throw trash. I saw him not stop them. I saw him try to get the case moved. Naomi asked, why are you testifying now? Barnes looked toward Grace Whitfield, then at Maya. Because this morning I saw what happens when everyone waits for someone else to do the right thing. No one spoke for several seconds. Maya made a note. Thank you, Officer Barnes. Naomi then submitted a preliminary warrant return. Federal agents had seized Crestline hard drives, Dutton's laptop, 2 phones, and a cash box containing bundled bills. One bundle had a bank strap dated 3 days after Leonard Price's arrest. Leonard sat upright, his face drained. Naomi said, the government cannot yet state whose cash this is, but serial number tracing has begun. Maya issued another order freezing connected assets. Malloy suddenly leaned toward his attorney and whispered hard. His attorney stood. "Your Honor, my client requests a recess to discuss cooperation." The courtroom shifted. Maya looked at Malloy. "Cooperation with whom?" The attorney hesitated. "With federal investigators." Naomi's expression did not change, but her eyes sharpened. Maya said, "That discussion will occur outside this hearing, under counsel, with FBI and federal prosecutors present. It will not delay these preservation orders." Malloy looked at her then. For the first time, there was no sneer, only calculation. Maya understood. The network was breaking, and Malloy wanted to trade names before the others traded his. Denise Carter leaned toward Leonard Price and whispered, "Now they all scared." Leonard nodded. "Good." Maya heard it but did not react. She struck the gavel once. "The court will enter emergency preservation and asset restraint orders as stated. This hearing will recess for 30 minutes, while federal custody teams secure physical records." The room stood as she rose. As people began to move, Maya looked at the screen one more time. The numbers were still there. Missing money, altered entries, quiet theft laid out in columns. The truth did not always arrive with shouting. Sometimes it came as a ledger, and in courtroom B, the ledger had begun to speak. The 30-minute recess became the moment the conspiracy began turning on itself. Federal agents moved through the courthouse with sealed evidence boxes. Marshals stood outside courtroom B, the old evidence room, and the secondary inspection area. Technicians copied hard drives. Clerks printed access logs. Phones were bagged. Radios were logged. Every movement that had once depended on quiet favors was now being written down by people who did not answer to Ray Dutton, Crestline Civic Systems, or Travis Malloy. Maya Williams remained in chambers with Chief Judge Whitaker, Naomi Brooks, Grace Whitfield, and a federal prosecutor named Elaine Porter. Her injured hand rested on the table, wrapped and aching. The medic had told her she needed an X-ray. Maya had said she would go after the emergency orders were complete. Elaine Porter set a folder down in front of Naomi. "Malloy wants to cooperate." Grace folded her arms. "Of course he does." Whitaker looked toward Maya. "He is trying to save himself." Maya's voice was quiet. "Then, let him name everyone he helped." Naomi opened the folder. "His attorney says Malloy will identify payment routes, courthouse blind spots, and the officers who used him to intercept files and intimidate witnesses." Grace shook her head. This morning he was calling her trash in front of the lobby. Now he wants mercy. Maya did not look angry. That made the room even quieter. "Mercy is not mine to give," she said. "Accountability belongs to the record." Elaine nodded. "We'll take his proffer in a separate room. Nothing will delay the hearing. Nothing will affect the independent review of what he did to you." Maya looked at her. "And the people in the gallery?" Elaine understood. "Their cases remain open. Every named victim will be contacted. Every forfeiture file will be reviewed." Maya leaned back slightly. She was tired now. Not emotionally tired. Not in the way people meant when they wanted to rest. She felt the deep exhaustion of watching a truth she had suspected for decades finally take shape in paper, video, and sworn testimony. Grace noticed. "Judge Williams, you should let the medic take you now." Maya looked toward the courtroom door. After one more session, Whitaker sighed, but he did not argue. One more. When courtroom B reconvened, the crowd stood more slowly than before. The mood had changed. The first hours had been shock, then outrage. Now came something heavier. Recognition. People understood they were not watching a single bad officer fall. They were watching a machine get opened while it was still running. Maya took the bench. "Please be seated." Naomi rose first. "Your Honor, during the recess, federal authorities secured Crestline Civic Systems local servers, the old evidence room intake computer, courthouse access logs, and digital communications from Officer Travis Malloy and Detective Ray Dutton. The government requests that the court receive a status update from federal investigators regarding ongoing obstruction risks. Proceed." Naomi called Special Agent Peter Lang again. He entered with a printed preliminary report. Agent Lang, Naomi said. Were federal technicians able to interrupt the remote wipe attempt? Yes. Did you identify the target? Yes. The command targeted export logs for body cam files, access histories for courthouse security cameras, and audit trails connected to evidence transfers. What would have happened if the wipe succeeded? We would have lost proof of who accessed, altered, exported, or moved key files, Naomi asked. Was the wipe connected to the laptop seized from Ray Dutton? Preliminarily, yes. A murmur went through the courtroom. Maya struck the gavel once. Order, Naomi continued. Did you find evidence that Officer Malloy's station accessed files connected to today's hearing? Yes. His courthouse login accessed the witness intake schedule 3 times last night and once this morning before Judge Williams arrived. Maya's face did not change, but her good hand closed around her pen. Naomi asked, were those accesses part of his normal duties? No. Security officers can view daily public entry schedules. They cannot access protected witness routing without authorization. Was authorization present? No. Naomi turned to the bench. Your Honor, the government submits this as further support that Officer Malloy was not conducting a spontaneous security stop. Maya nodded. Received for preservation purposes. Next, Naomi called Elaine Porter to summarize federal action. Elaine stood from counsel table rather than the witness stand. Your Honor, federal prosecutors are preparing complaints against Ray Dutton, Travis Malloy, and additional individuals to be named under seal. Potential charges include conspiracy to obstruct justice, witness intimidation, bribery involving federal program funds, deprivation of rights under color of law, evidence tampering, wire fraud, theft from programs receiving federal funds, and obstruction of an official proceeding. Denise Carter closed her eyes. Leonard Price lowered his head. Marcus Hill stared at the table in front of him. Elaine continued, we are also reviewing prior convictions, civil settlements, and dismissed complaints affected by altered body cam files or questionable forfeiture records. We will establish a victim notification process. Maya leaned forward. Make that process plain. Many of the people harmed by this network have already been buried in paperwork. Elaine nodded. Yes, Your Honor. Written notices, phone outreach, community clinics, and assistance for elderly victims who cannot navigate online systems. Good. A city attorney stood. Your Honor, the city requests to participate in forming that process. Maya looked at him for a long moment. The city may participate, but it will not control the process. The alleged misconduct involved city systems. Oversight will be independent. He nodded. Understood. Naomi then asked to recall Marcus Hill. Marcus returned to the stand looking more worn than before. The weight of what he had exposed sat on his face. Naomi said, Mr. Hill, during the recess, did you review additional messages recovered from Ray Dutton's device? Yes. Do they identify other officers involved? Yes. Do they identify contractors? Yes. Do they identify individuals inside the courthouse besides Officer Malloy? Marcus hesitated. Yes. The room tightened. Naomi asked, did you recognize the phrase, door rotation? Marcus swallowed. Yes. It referred to courthouse security officers who helped delay or redirect people bringing complaints, files, or witness materials. How many officers? I know of 3. Grace Whitfield's jaw clenched. Naomi asked. Was Officer Pell one of them? Yes. And Officer Malloy? Yes. He was the main one. Naomi paused. Why was he the main one? Marcus looked toward Malloy, who sat beside his attorney with his eyes down. Because he enjoyed it, Marcus said. The others wanted money. Malloy wanted money too, but he liked making people feel small. Dutton said that made him useful. No one moved. Maya looked at Malloy. He did not raise his head. Naomi asked, did Malloy know racial humiliation could be used to provoke reactions? Yes. That was part of the method. If someone got angry, they wrote the report around the anger. If someone cried, they called them unstable. If someone stayed quiet, they took the papers and made the delay look procedural. Maya felt the words settle into the room like a confession of something larger than one case. She spoke from the bench. "Mr. Hill, did you participate in this method?" Marcus's face tightened. I looked away from it. "That was not my question." He closed his eyes. "Yes, I participated by staying quiet. Sometimes by signing reports I knew left things out." "Why are you telling the truth now?" Marcus opened his eyes and looked at Denise Carter. "Because silence became part of the crime." Helen Marsh, seated behind Denise, bowed her head. Maya said, "Let that answer stand." Naomi finished with Marcus and submitted the additional messages under seal. Then Malloy's attorney stood. "Your Honor, my client is prepared to make a limited statement through counsel." Naomi objected. "Not in this proceeding. Any cooperation should occur with prosecutors outside the hearing." Maya agreed. Sustained. "Mr. Malloy will not use this courtroom to negotiate his way out of the record." Malloy suddenly looked up. "You already decided I'm guilty." His attorney grabbed his sleeve. "Travis, stop." Malloy pulled away. "No. She hated me from the second I stopped her." Maya looked at him, calm and direct. "I was afraid of you when you stopped me. That is not the same as hating you." He laughed bitterly. "You want to ruin my life?" "No," Maya said. "You mistook your life for the power to ruin others." The courtroom went silent. Malloy's face flushed, but he said nothing more. Maya turned to the clerk. "The record will reflect that Mr. Malloy spoke voluntarily after being advised by counsel to stop." His attorney closed his eyes. Naomi requested final emergency orders for the day. Maya granted federal custody over all relevant records, independent review of prior cases, protection for witnesses, restriction orders for Malloy and Dutton, asset freezes for connected accounts, and immediate suspension of courthouse personnel implicated in the door rotation scheme. When the orders were entered, Maya looked across the courtroom. Her voice was steady, but quieter than before. This hearing began with allegations that people were stopped, disbelieved, and erased by paperwork. This morning, the court saw an attempt to do the same thing at its own door. Let this record show that no badge, no contract, no forged signature, and no edited video is stronger than sworn truth, protected by law. Denise Carter began to cry again, but this time, she did not cover her face. Maya continued. "The court will recess until tomorrow morning. Federal orders remain in effect. Witness protections remain active. Evidence preservation continues immediately." She struck the gavel. "All rise," the clerk called. The room stood. Maya stepped down from the bench slowly. Her hand throbbed. Her body felt heavy. But as she passed through the side door, she saw the sealed evidence cart waiting under guard. On it sat her father's leather case, stained but intact. Grace walked beside her. "Hospital now?" Grace asked. Maya looked once back toward the courtroom where the victims were still standing, speaking softly to one another, no longer alone. "Yes," Maya said. "Now." As they moved down the corridor, Malloy's voice echoed from behind a closed door, angry and desperate as federal agents prepared to question him. But Maya did not turn around. The day had begun with him trying to make her small. It ended with his whole network trying to explain itself to the law. Maya Williams returned to the William H. Marshall Federal Courthouse 6 months later on a clear autumn morning. The air was cooler now. The leaves along the sidewalk had turned gold and red, and the cafe across the street had set out a small chalkboard advertising pumpkin muffins and fresh coffee. Lawyers still hurried up the steps with briefcases. Clerks still balanced paper cups and folders. Older men and women still came through the doors with the careful hope people carried into courthouses when they had already been disappointed by other rooms. But the entrance was different. The old security table had been replaced. New cameras covered every angle of the lobby. A federal evidence intake window stood beside the screening area, staffed by U.S. Marshals rather than local courthouse security. Above it, in simple black lettering, was a new sign. Witness and Evidence Protection Intake. No unrecorded transfers. Maya paused at the main doors. Her right hand had healed, though 2 fingers still ached when rain was coming. The doctors had called it a minor fracture. She had not called it minor. Payne remembered what paperwork tried to soften. Grace Whitfield stood beside her in a Navy suit instead of uniform. She had retired 3 weeks earlier, though everyone in the courthouse still called her deputy out of habit and respect. "You ready?" Grace asked. Maya looked through the glass toward the lobby, where everything had begun. "No." Grace smiled faintly. "Good. Means it still matters." Maya carried her father's brown leather case. It had been cleaned, but one dark coffee stain remained near the lower corner. She had refused to have it removed. Inside, the lobby was already filled. Denise Carter stood near the front in a dark red dress and church hat, one hand resting on the arm of Leonard Price, who wore a charcoal suit and polished shoes. Helen Marsh sat in a chair set aside for elderly guests, cane across her knees. Marcus Hill stood near the back with his wife and teenage son. His face still carried shame, but he no longer looked like a man hiding from himself. Naomi Brooks spoke quietly with federal prosecutors near the wall. Chief Judge Whitaker waited beside a covered plaque. There were reporters too, but fewer than before. The case had already made national news. Ray Dutton had been indicted on federal charges. Travis Malloy had pleaded guilty to obstruction, bribery, deprivation of rights under color of law, and witness intimidation. Crestline Civic Systems had lost its contracts and faced fraud charges. 2 property clerks had entered cooperation agreements. Officer Pell had resigned before he could be fired, then found himself named in a federal complaint anyway. But today was not about them. Today was about the people they had tried to erase. Chief Judge Whitaker stepped to the microphone. 6 months ago, this courthouse failed before a case even reached the courtroom. A judge was humiliated at the door. Evidence was nearly diverted. Witnesses were targeted. Citizens who had waited years to be heard learned that their pain had been treated as paperwork to be edited, delayed, or monetized. The lobby was silent. Whitaker continued. Institutions do not regain trust by denying failure. They regain it by changing what failure revealed. He turned toward the covered plaque. Today, this court formally adopts the Williams Protocols. Maya looked down briefly. She had argued against the name. She had wanted it called the Evidence Integrity and Witness Protection Protocol. Whitaker had listened, then told her the name was not for her pride. It was for the record. He began reading the reforms. All civil rights witnesses would enter through independent federal protection channels. All evidence involving police misconduct would be logged by federal personnel, not local security. Courthouse cameras could not be shut off without written authorization and automatic backup. Body cam files used in federal proceedings had to be preserved in original form with tamper-proof audit logs. Forfeiture records would be audited quarterly. Victim compensation funds would require independent verification before payment. Complaints against law enforcement could not be reviewed solely by the agencies named in those complaints. As he spoke, Maya watched Denise Carter. Denise's son had received a formal apology from the city. The stolen settlement had been repaid with damages. The edited body cam had been restored to the record. None of that gave him back the years he had spent being called a liar. But when Denise looked at the plaque, her chin lifted. Whitaker nodded to Maya. "Judge Williams." She stepped forward. For a moment, she saw the lobby as it had been that morning. The coffee splashing, papers sliding across the marble, Malloy's boot near her hand, strangers throwing trash, the words he had shouted as if hate had authority. Then she saw it as it was now. Witnesses protected, cameras working, victims present, names spoken aloud. Maya stood at the microphone. "I did not end Officer Malloy's career," she said. "The truth did. Every report he falsified, every witness he frightened, every dollar taken from someone who had already suffered, every video cut to protect power, every insult he believed would make a person smaller. Those things ended his career. No one moved." She continued. "But if this story stops with one bad officer, then we have learned too little. A corrupt man can do damage. A silent system lets him repeat it." This courthouse was forced to ask a painful question. How many people were stopped at the door before anyone inside knew they had arrived? Denise Carter wiped her eyes. Maya looked toward the older witnesses, to those who waited years to be believed. "This building owes you more than apology. It owes you access, protection, and a record that cannot be quietly rewritten. Her voice softened. My father once told me, never let hatred make you smaller than the truth. I did not understand the full weight of those words until the morning someone tried to turn me into a suspect at the entrance of a courthouse. But I understand them now. Hatred is loud. Corruption is careful. Justice must be both braver than the first and more careful than the second. Whitaker removed the cover from the plaque. The bronze caught the morning light. Justice begins before the courtroom door. Beneath it were names. Not only Maya's. Denise Carter, Daniel Carter, Leonard Price, Pamela Reed, Anthony Bell, others whose cases had been reopened. At the bottom, a blank space remained with the words, for those still waiting to be heard. A young black girl standing beside her grandmother raised her hand shyly. Maya turned to her. Yes, sweetheart. Are you the judge from the video? A soft ripple moved through the crowd. Maya smiled. I am. The girl looked at the plaque. Were you scared when he said that to you? Maya held the leather case with both hands. Yes, she said. But courage is not pretending words don't hurt. Courage is making sure hate does not get the final word. The girl nodded, as if storing the answer for later. After the ceremony, people moved slowly through the lobby. Some touched the plaque. Some stood before a name and cried. Marcus Hill approached Denise Carter, his hands folded in front of him. Mrs. Carter, he said, I'll spend the rest of my life sorry. Denise looked at him for a long moment, then spent it telling the truth. I will. Grace came to Maya's side. Your father would have liked that plaque. Maya looked down at the coffee stain on the case. He would have asked why it took so long. Grace nodded. He would have been right. The courthouse bell rang for the morning session. Maya turned toward courtroom B. Her steps were steady. The entrance that once held insult and fear now held cameras, marshals, records, witnesses, and names that could no longer be hidden. As she walked past the plaque, an elderly veteran near the security line removed his cap. Others followed, not for ceremony, not for power, for the quiet knowledge that justice had been forced to begin where it should have begun, all along. At the door, the lesson of Maya Williams' story is that hatred may be loud, but truth is stronger when someone has the courage to protect it. A single act of racism at the courthouse door uncovered a deeper system of corruption, proving that injustice often survives because people stay silent. Maya's strength reminds us that dignity is not weakness, and justice does not begin only in a courtroom. It begins the moment ordinary people refuse to let lies, fear, and prejudice have the final word. Thank you for staying with this story until the very end. If it touched your heart, I would truly love to hear your thoughts on the storytelling, the emotional pacing, or whatever stayed with you after listening. Every comment you share helps make the next stories more honest, moving, and meaningful. And if you have a powerful or meaningful story of your own, please do not hesitate to send it to the channel. It may become the next story to touch and inspire thousands of others. This video is a work of fiction created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. All characters, events, and situations are not real and do not represent any actual people or true stories. The content is intended for storytelling and emotional illustration only.